Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Podcast. I'm Jason Abrams, and this is the place where we lift the curtain on the world of real estate like never before. Every week, I sit down with visionaries, pirates, and mavericks. We're here to document, demonstrate, and most importantly, demystify their game-changing models and systems. What secrets propel them to the top? And how are they living their dreams? This is about passion, it's about strategy, but above all, it's about real, tangible success. So buckle up and let's dive in. This is the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Podcast. He works in the city, and then he raises cattle. And by the way, he does both of them in the exact same day. That's the kind of craziness we're all about to get involved in, and that's the story of Michael Hern. Michael Hern is a real estate agent that runs a team in the Gold Coast of New Jersey. This is right on the Hudson River. On the other side, you have Midtown Manhattan, and they do 135 to 150 million year in and year out. And then he gets in the car and he drives an hour to his farm. And here's the thing that we're going to unpack. He is going to tell us exactly how to start in a marketplace from nothing and become the single known name in real estate. Friends, he is going to teach us how to scale, and he's going to do it in a way that you've never heard. Sit back and buckle up. This is Michael Hern. Michael, how are you, sir?
I'm good, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Dude, it's an honor to have you. And since Brian Gubernick introduced us, man, I've been chomping at the bit to have this episode because what you've done in one of the most competitive markets in the world is nothing short of astounding to me. But the way you've done it, we're going to unpack exactly how you did. But before we do, everyone comes into our industry in different ways. How did you find your way into the greatest industry in the world?
It was pretty unique. I went to school to be a teacher. Came out of college to get a teaching job, and where we were, there's a lot of things going on with physical education and health where they were cutting that. And I couldn't get a teaching job. Took a fireman test because my dad was a fireman.
Wait, hang on a second. What kind of teacher were you going to be?
Physical education and health.
Brother, are you telling me that I'm talking to a multimillionaire gym teacher?
Just about. Yeah.
So good. It's nuts.
I think that teaching helped the whole mindset of wanting to teach and coach, right? I had a great athletic career. I had coaches that were like fathers, and I wanted to do that. Not that I didn't have a great father or anything of that nature, but the relationships were impactful. And I wanted to be able to have that impact on some of the younger kids through sports, mainly, like I did. And it just didn't work that way. Like I said, teaching, I couldn't get hired in school districts I wanted to. The fire department, I came out number 1 2 years in a row. They weren't hiring for some funding reasons or whatever it may be. And I started bartending just to pick up a job in the city. And the owner was like, "You're too smart to bartend. Like, why don't you get your real estate license? I do real estate." So I did. And then he like, "Why don't you just come along with me and be my assistant and do this, put my signs out, this is the marketing mailers." And I did that. And then my first check was that of a teaching salary. And I was like, I think I'm going to stay doing this.
You go through academy, you finish number 1 in your class because of your physicality and aptitude twice.
Mm-hmm.
You never get a gig in the fire department.
No, the funding wasn't there at that time.
So you start bartending. What do you learn bartending, if anything, that helped you in the real estate industry? Because it sounds like that was the first real formal gig after college.
Yeah, I think it was more of just holding conversation with different people, a wide variety of people, different education levels of everybody from all crosses of earth, from things that they do to where they've been to their culture. Being able to hold conversation with people, especially at a young age. I was maybe 22. And teaching was different, and I was more of your jock. So I wasn't having deep, impactful conversations. And kind of that occurred more than you would think at the bar with customers.
So then when you start kind of following this guy around him, he kind of becomes an impromptu mentor. What is it that you either see or learn from him that ends up changing your life, if anything?
I still talk to him probably monthly just to thank him for getting me into this business. My life is very different than what it could have been. The biggest thing that I saw from him was how he immersed himself into his farm, into his area of where he was doing real estate. His first thing was get a dog. And I wanted a dog anyway, but he's like, go get a dog. When you see people walking around, like, go walk the dog next to him and go talk to him. So I did that. And after a while, it started working. I started building relationships just through the dog groups. I actually already had a dog anyway, but I utilized it and I saw what he would do that. And then the next biggest thing was like, when we started getting going, he's like, you need to move into the farm, like into one of these communities. And I did. And then I started to take over that community from walking a dog or holding events and things of that nature. So what I saw from him, though, ultimately was just how he immersed himself with the people, living there, eating there, working there, traveling there, like it was there. And again, just from a fly on the wall, like I don't know why he had success or why he didn't. I don't know if it was his marketing or his sales skills, but I could see by what he did by putting himself in those places, created something for him.
So you get this first check and it's a bigger number than you would have made teaching for a year. Is that the minute that you know this is it for you?
I think as a young man, when you see that type of dollar, you're like, yeah, I didn't selfishly, I wasn't thinking about the other person or the person I helped. I was thinking more selfishly about the income. Wow, it's great. Used to cut hair for $5 to get by, So it was special. My mother didn't work. My dad did well at the fire department. So feeling like I had a good chance to make a significant income that I don't really come from was pretty big for me, in terms of creating a different life.
Was Dad, because he was a fireman, was he excited about the prospect of you becoming a fireman? And was that difficult for him or just wildly supportive?
Ultimately, wildly supportive. He was happy for me to try everything. Teaching, fire department, real estate. And then oddly enough, as we progress in real estate, I start doing really well, making mid six figures, is when the fire department calls and says, hey, you're hired. My dad's like, oh, you got to go. You could still do real estate. I'm like, that, I'm making a nice chunk of change. I don't want to go into a burning building right now. I just don't want to do it, and that put a little twist in the story for him. But I think he comes from a different generation where he cared more about healthcare, pension, and all that type of stuff. And he said, yeah, you're doing well now, but what about in 3 years or 4 years or 5 years? It's sales, it goes up, down, blah, blah, blah. There was a lot of thinking there, but I think at that point, I was just so confident in what I was doing. By that point, I had direction on where I wanted to get to, how to get there. I saw other people doing what I wanted to do in that game and in that industry in terms of income level and sales and how they carried themselves and growing a team. I just felt like I figured a lot of it out. Now, I was executing at a low level, but I was on my way to doing it. So it was a tough decision, but I had to give up everything and just be fully committed to real estate at that time.
And this moment sort of kicks off this idea of scale and the way that you're going to build this total immersive community where you're the mayor of real estate land, it sounds like.
It started with that, yeah. And like I said, with scale, we've been running this now for about 10 years, but how it came up very much from what we talked about with the gentleman of what did I learn from him, right? His visibility and immersing himself. So for our foundation of scale, we use the acronym SCALE.
Oh, stop. Friends, you know what time it is. He was about to jump the gun, but that's the time of the show where we give you a model. So if you're driving down the freeway in your new Ferrari because sales are good, don't worry about taking the notes. I'm taking the notes. They come out every Thursday. If you don't get them, go to MREAnotes.com, enter your email address. You will get the notes in the system from this episode. Michael, teach us exactly how to go scale our business. What is scale?
Right. I think no matter what level you're at, and I've went back and forth from scale foundation to scale part 1 to scale part 2, right? There's 3 scales that I really use. But the first and foremost, the most basic one that has to remain and stay intact forever is the basic one. And S meaning to be seen, right? S, seen. You have to be seen. Where are you showing up? Do people see you? If you're working at a coffee shop, not in your market, not really in the area where you want to sell homes, that's not going to be helpful. But being in a Starbucks in your area is. Being at the ferry terminal, having coffee matters because a lot of my clients will use the ferry boat to go over to New York City via the ferry. So I would always go there to have coffee. I would go there to eat dinner. I would be marketing on the ferry boat itself. At one point, we wrapped the entire ferry boat. So it was pretty cool. We were on the billboards. I had the Sprinter van where it was wrapped. We did the postcards, right? So I always tell people, like, are you being seen? Because if you're not being seen, like, it's hard to start scaling. Like, you'll sell a few homes here and there, but if you're not being seen, it's very difficult. And then after being seen, it's communication. And how do you communicate? Is it on those mailers that you send is, oh, hey, just sold. Look at me. Look at me. I don't believe in that. I think that there's a place for all that, but I do believe that the way you communicate and how the viewer or the customer is perceiving that is going to matter tremendously to them wanting to call you. So I think the communication of telling a story, we communicated a lot about not only that we sold homes, but how we sold homes in the community. And we focused on community events and community give back. We focused on our messaging of how to live in the area and why the area is so special. So a lot of times it wasn't the communication of, oh, look at what we did. It was, this is a beautiful area. And by the way, we sold this home down the street. And the reason we sold that home down the street is because of the great commute and the great lifestyle, like next to the Starbucks, et cetera, et cetera. And then also we would tell stories, right? I think, communicating through storytelling is really important. And I believe it allows, somebody to see.
By the way you're laying it out makes logical sense to me, which is number one, I have to be seen. But the minute I'm seen, I now need to communicate something. And so
Yes.
What a lot of people do is the communication is, hey, I'm the agent and I'm awesome. You're pumping the brakes and saying, no, we're communicating about the community that we're in. And now we're going to tell stories about how we're serving it. What's an example
Correct.
of a story?
One of the stories that we do, because we live in a very transity area where somebody would buy these condos, because they're mainly condos where we sell. And they live there for 3 to 4 years, have a baby, and then they move to the suburbs. But it gets tricky of selling and buying, right? So I would tell a story of a situation where one of my sellers needed to purchase a home first and how we were able to get them a rent back and a use and occupancy situation and XYZ so they could actually close on their new home with having closed on the home that they already needed to sell.
I see. So you're looking up and saying, what's the general problems that the people in my market are trying to solve, and then telling a story about how you solved it for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do you tell those stories? Is this a postcard? Is this an email? Is this newsletter? Or is this just word of mouth and you're talking to people?
No, it's a lot of the multiple areas, right? We would do social media where we have a nice follow, just a quick short video, maybe even a testimonial from the client. On the postcards would be a testimonial from the client. With a marketing mailer, is this on your radar, right? How you can get it done, right? Things of that nature. And not only us telling that story, them telling the story of what we did and how we did it for them. So I believe that the way we communicated has helped us tremendously.
Love that. Okay, so I'm going to be seen. I'm going to have to communicate. What's A?
A is adds to the database. You have to be adding people to the database. If you're being seen and you're communicating well, you have to be having those leads go into your database so you could start working them.
And are most of those leads, are they coming in where I meet someone on the street and I'm entering them? Or in your postcards, are you giving people a reason to raise their hand? Like, walk me through the specifics.
So whether it's walking a dog and we're meeting somebody, like our goal that we have for our team is like, you have to add at least 5 people you don't know to your database a day.
Every day?
Every day. Like that should be a goal, right? You need to go talk to some stranger and add them to your database.
Okay, wait a second. Like I'm no math major, but you're talking over 1,500 people a year that each individual on your team has a goal of adding because they met them?
Now, you got to remember, we live in one of the most highly densely populated places in the nation.
So do I, but I don't talk to anyone because I don't like people. But it sounds like in your business,
well,
that's...
when you want to sell homes, you got to do it. You got to talk to people. I mean, it's a goal, right? It's a lot of times we used to focus on, make your 20 connections a day, make your 20 connections a day, or your 20 conversations a day. And when we really started to flip that to go talk to 5 random people and see if you can add them to your database and let our, visibility and our storytelling start to work these people. But if they're not in there, it's going to be hard to continue to connect with them, which would lead to L, a lasting impression. That if you're being seen You told a really good communication story. You added them to your database. Like, now are you leaving a lasting impression?
How do I do that?
Number one, it has to be through your storytelling, right? Your communication style. You have to leave a lasting impression. Two, if they're in your database, what items of value are you bringing them that they want specifically? Do they want local data knowledge? Do they want to be the Angie's List of calling you if they need a painter or a mover, or whatever it may be? Are you inviting any of them to events that we have? Like, we'll have a Cinco de Mayo event coming up, or we just did a Easter egg hunt for the kids in one of the communities. We invite people up to a farm that I have about an hour out of the city, and we do a family farm day. So it's just, are you leaving some type of lasting impression with these people? My goal, and the reason going back from lasting impression is seen, is I always ask the question, if I ask somebody, go 1, 2, 3, name the amount of toothpaste brands you can name.
I got Crest, I got Aquafresh, which my mother never let me get the Aquafresh, but I always wanted to get it. And I bet you so did every one of our listeners. And then the Sendent. What's the stuff with the sensitive teeth? That's what I'm using now.
Sensodyne?
Yeah, I'm thrilled with it. Great product.
Yeah. So, but, mainly most people, when I ask that question, they can name 1, 2, maybe 3. And I tell people, well, that's the same thing when somebody thinks of a real estate agent. Maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe 3. And I said, maybe that second or third one is just somebody that they worked with in the past that they might remember, but they probably don't because that agent didn't follow up or didn't leave a lasting impression after the sale. But why do they think of me, even if they didn't work with me? Well, we're seen. Like, we're in their mailboxes. We're in the ferry terminal. We're on a billboard. So, like, no matter what, they're going to see that. And again, then going into C, adding them to our database and leaving a lasting impression with events and face-to-face time, et cetera, knowledge, value that they love.
So what's E?
E is education. You have to know your stuff, right? You have to know your market. You have to know what's going on in the market, the intricacies of selling and buying. Like I just told you, a lot of our sellers in that area are going to need a use and occupancy. So being able to have a conversation around that and how you can navigate that process is really important. And outside of that, I think the education, not only in the market, but on yourself. I'm a big believer in personal development and personal growth, that I believe most of my business has been won not through my sales knowledge, but through my emotional intelligence and growth as a person and the conversations and relatability I've had with people just through conversating.
You don't sound like any gym teachers I ever had. I'm going to just lay that on the line right now. I love this model. Scene, communication, ads, lasting impression, and education. I get this totally. I want to go back to the first one, to scene, for a second. Because I think a lot of people are going to discount that. And they're going to look up and say, okay, he has a billboard or he's on a boat. That's not actually what you're saying. It sounds like, to me, this breaks into a couple of buckets. Number one is human to human. I'm going to be there living my life and I'm going to meet people. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Number two sounds like mail to me.
Like direct mail?
Like you're sending mail. You said I'm in people's mailbox.
All the time. Yeah, we send it at least once a month.
Okay, walk me through then, once a month. What's the piece? What's important on it? Pretend this, dude. I'm an agent and I want to start this plan tomorrow. Make me smarter.
The first mailer that we do without looking, thinking, anything is the market update. What happened month over month from this year to the past year? It's just the same market snapshot that they get every single month for their specific building.
And is this postcard or letter in an
Postcard.
envelope?
Postcard.
What's the key to the postcard?
We use EDDM, every door direct mail, that just gets that route carrier, and whatever carrier, whatever buildings are on that route are the buildings that we'll put on that postcard specifically. We use a bigger one, not a smaller one. So this way they can't just like throw them out with everybody else. And most of the people I speak to or say like, you're the guy that just always sends me all that damn mail. They make a joke about it, but 9 out of 10 times when I go there, I see the postcard somewhere on their desk, in their kitchen. It's there.
Okay, so then the first type of postcard is a card stock, but it's larger, and that's my monthly update. Any other type of postcards that you send?
Then it would be the storytelling of what we're doing, either based on event-wise for the community, for the area, what we just did for a person, if there was something special that was happening. Like I said, we're going to have the Cinco de Mayo event for some of the buildings, so we'll market that into their postcards just so to make sure that they get it and invite them to come down, meet us, join us.
And is that one once a month? I know I'm doing the market update once a month. Am I also doing storytelling once a month?
We try to, but we don't want to fabricate anything. If we don't have like a good story that we could tell, we're not going to go out there and do something. It has to be real. It
Love
has
that.
to make sense. And, at the same time, we try to limit it a little bit. I really don't want to be doing 24 mailers a year. It does get costly. But, the idea is when you have something to tell it.
Perfect. Then the next bucket I have, and I'm just making this up as I go, so if I get it wrong, tell me, sounds like multimedia, billboards, boat wraps. It's something different in the market. What's the important piece about that? What should I have on my billboard?
What we have on our billboard is strictly just a picture of me, our logo, the Keller Williams logo, and it's your local expert. That's it. Like just branding. And some people don't like this because there's no direct ROI on it, unless maybe you added that type of number or a text to this number. But the reality is, it is hard to quantify. But when people see that consistently, and there's not many realtors spending that type of money to do that, so they correlate that with much more success.
I think that's so important, by the way, that you just said that. Okay, and then the next one, it sounds like is social media. Which platforms are you running stuff on?
Mainly Instagram and Facebook.
The kids call it Insta, Mike.
Insta, yeah. The gram.
It's the gram and the face pages. How often are you posting and what are you posting?
I'm posting at least 3 times a week of something educational, not just of real estate, but whether it's educational about life. I run a little series about my son's 20 months old. When he turned about 10 months old, I started the biggest lessons from the littlest CEO.
Wow.
Of what I've learned from him. And when I see something about him opening up a door or a drawer, getting frustrated the first or second time. And then I say, on his 4th time, he opened it and he was so happy. And I correlate that to then when I worked with a buyer. The buyer was really frustrated in losing the first house, the second house, the third house. And it takes time, especially in multiple bid situations when you're in these situations. And then I'll give the example of what you would want to do as a home buyer, right? Where you're going to feel some frustration like my son just felt, but ultimately you'll have a smile on your face and you will pull that drawer open. But you're going to learn along the way, right? Of how to make my bid stronger, right? We told you from the beginning, you probably have to waive your appraisal. You have to waive your inspection. You may have to go 50K above ask. You may have to close when the seller wants to close. You may have to give a use and occupancy. But if you don't do that, it's going to be tough to open that drawer.
Yeah.
And the same thing with sellers. So we correlate stuff like that to like a little learning lesson. And a lot of people like that because they see the kid, they see me as a human, which I try to always tell people, like before I go on a listing appointment, go look at my Instagram. I always tell them, because I want you to see me as a human, because I don't do all real estate stuff there. I have a farm. I care about the farm that I have, where I have cattle. We work cattle. I want you to see my son. I want you to see the things that matter to me in terms of personal growth and whatnot. Like, I could sell homes. That's why you called me. But you know nothing else about me.
You work cattle?
We have about 72 head of cattle.
Really?
Yeah. I actually got to go move them now. It's raining here in Jersey, and they got to get to a different pasture. Otherwise, they'll ruin this one.
Yeehaw.
Yes, sir.
That's my best yeehaw, and I'm giving it to you on this episode. Okay, so I meet the people face to face. I understand that I'm sending a mail. I'm doing some multimedia so they see me everywhere, and then I'm hitting social media. By the way, you run that play, man, and you are going to be seen.
Absolutely. I want to make sure I stress that you could find ways to be seen without money, right? You don't have to do a billboard, right? I didn't do a billboard when I started. That's when success came. And first, then understanding my P&L, right? And making sure I had the ability to spend, and then enough time to spend for 6, 7, 8 months to see what it did, right? I know with Brian, and I'm sure you heard that phrase of just firing bullets before cannonballs, right? Just a little bit before you load up all the gunpowder, but you got to have enough time to test it. You have to lead with profit. So just all the free stuff, from social media to being at the Starbucks. Like, I wasn't always going to work in the office. When I first started, I would work at the Starbucks with a little sign like this taped on the back of the table right next to me that just said, like, I do real estate, ask me questions.
Did people actually ask you questions?
Some did, but the funny thing is they end up calling me a year, 2 years later saying, I remember seeing you at Starbucks all the time with the real estate sign.
Dude, that's
right?
it.
So, but what did they say? I remember seeing you. They wouldn't have seen me if I was working from home like we all love to do, because it's comfortable and convenient, rather than a Starbucks on a rainy day where people are going to go.
Maybe your house is, dude. The opportunity of working from home is laundry. I'm convinced that's the opportunity of working from home. And if you're a real estate agent and you are spending all your time at home, I bet you're doing more laundry than the
I
rest
believe
of
it.
us are.
Yeah.
Dude, this makes all the sense in the world to me. And I love the way that you think about scale. This sort of became the foundation for the business, but then you
100%.
expanded the definition of scale. Tell me about that.
So we always start with that. Even when I'm working with an agent, whatever, we say first, are you seen? Are you communicating well, et cetera? Are you adding to the database, last impression, education? If you have that, I believe like your business should be running now, right? And now it's, are you hitting a ceiling at some level because you don't have things in place to now further scale, right? So once you finish the scale foundation, you would really get into like scale part one, which is there's two words for each letter. So for scale, again, this would be systems and simplify.
What does that mean?
Going back to the foundation, what are we doing to being seen, communicating, lasting impression? Like what systems do we have in place for each and every single one of those? What could be simplified? I always like to say, what can we delete out of every single bit of our systems? Like, let's delete half of it and see what we have to add back. Like that, to me, when it came to scaling, it wasn't just, going to hire people, No, it was like, what could I even do with what I have just to go do more? And it was like, all right, let's just make this a lot simpler. Like it doesn't have to be so robust. So I like to always get on the whiteboard, throw all of our systems up there and just like delete all of them and see which ones we have to add back to simplify it. And then make sure that there's a system around it, right? And a system means it has to be written down. It has to be something that I've done that could be teachable, that anybody could pick up, like that it could just flow. So you have to have the systems and simplification in there. I always say, but don't make a system out of something that doesn't even need to be there, right? Like there's no reason to fix something that doesn't need to be there anyway.
Genius. All right. What about C?
That is challenge and curiosity. Are you challenging the plays you're running, right? The same plays I ran 5 years ago are not going to make me successful today. Just not going to happen. So I have to challenge, where are my leads coming from? What is my number one lead source? Is this still going to be my number one lead source? Let's challenge it. Like, okay, the number 4 lead source. Why is this so bad? Like, this really should be number 1, but maybe not. But I want to challenge everything that we're doing. The marketing. Hey, maybe we could save 50 grand a month. Maybe we don't need to do any of those postcards. Well, then you're not going to be seen. Well, maybe we don't need to be seen. I don't know. Challenge it. Like everything needs to be challenged. The way you do host open houses, the way you get people to sign in. I challenged, some of my agents wanted paper sign-in, some wanted the iPad so it flows directly to the CRM to simplify their process. But I made everybody challenge it. And oddly enough, when they did that, we would find that some people who wanted the iPad to go into their CRM would then end up using the paper and pen because they got more good info from that person writing it down versus just the CRM. So I think challenging everything is really important, especially I tell my team to challenge me. Like there's things that I make that you guys don't challenge because you say, Mike made it. He knows what he's doing. Like he made this rule. Like it has to be here. Like we have to do it this way. That's not true. When did I make that rule? It could have been 8 years ago, and I don't even know if we still need it. And I say that a lot to my executives, always in terms of challenging. Like it can't, especially if I make it, like it needs to be challenged.
Brilliant. All right, A.
Just last thing with curiosity is I always say I'm curious with the challenging curiosity. Curiosity is what are other people doing? What does Jason Abrams do? What does his podcast look like? What does his marketing look like?
It looks like the number 1 podcast in the space, my friend, with over 1 million downloads. Thank you to y'all out there. Y'all, you're the best audience anybody could have.
It's fantastic, and rightfully so. Everybody should be plugging in. But just curious, like, are you curious about what other people are doing and you want to get to a certain point? Well, who's there already? Have you ever found out what they do, how they did it, etc.? What books are they reading? Yada, yada. So curiosity and challenge.
Okay, A.
A is amplify and automate. How do we automate some of these systems? How do we automate some of these things that we simplified? I always say that you can't automate anything until you can personally do it. Like it has to be done by yourself first. And then there has to be a way to automate it, either through another person that does it for you or technology, right? Whether all the technology we have at our CRM, for example, the biggest thing that we do is on every single birthday or home anniversary, we send out a little gift to the clients in our database. Well, we now have the database. It's already plugged in that it'll automatically send out the birthday cards. So I get a call like, hey, we got the birthday card. It usually goes like 2 days earlier. So hopefully they call me before it comes up. So like, I don't forget to call them, but it's done. And I mean, to think of the amount of time that's saved to send that many little happy birthday cards is unbelievable.
Brilliant.
And then Amplify. How do we blow this up? How do we double down? And I'm a big believer in not trying to get, our fifth lead gen lever or whatever it is, income driver to be better. I'll focus on 1 and 2 and just how do we double down? How do we double down on it? At the end of the year, I'll look to fix the bottom, but I want to do more of what we do well. So I try to amplify that.
Genius. What's L?
Leverage and leadership. You're going to have to implement leverage. We know leverage is going to lead to 2 things, lucrative or lazy, right? That's the only thing leverage is going to get you. And that could be, again, through technology, through people, through buyer's agents, through assistants, through director of ops, director of sales. There has to be some type of leverage in your business. We run a big task audit every 6 months where we have everybody write down exactly what they're doing for a week. And they come and they bring in that paper. And we just have them circle like the things that they're really passionate about and great at. And I'm like, okay, put them on one list. Everything else, can we stop doing it? Who could do that for you? How could we service that for you so you could focus on everything you're passionate about and great at, as long as it's driving some type of income? And let's clean up everything else so you could go do more of those things.
That's so good. We're
We're pretty misled in terms of our thinking of what we think we do. When we write it down, it's a lot more than what you think. From like the appraisal to the inspections to the listing description to uploading the photos. Like if you get really detailed, there's an enormous amount of things that's stopping you from scaling because you need to put leverage in your business someplace.
Absolutely. And then that then pulls you into leadership.
Obviously, as you're scaling, you're going to have leverage with people, with teammates. You're going to have to be a good leader. I think just from my athletic career, that was part of what helped me run a team, was being a captain, being one of the guys that people leaned on, and having some leadership, knowing what that meant, rallying the troops, keeping, the culture where it needs to be, picking people up when they're down, lifting people up, when they're down, or acknowledging them when they do well, just being there for them, ultimately being humble, ultimately being honest, reliable. My go-to book is Extreme Ownership by Jocko. It really helped me a lot, just from like decentralized command to literally everything that he talks about in that book really changed, I think, my perspective on leadership. I finally understood that the issues we had was not because Jason wasn't doing it well. It was because Mike didn't spend the time teaching Jason how to do it properly. And when I started to really look at everything that way, life changed and business changed drastically. And the culture changed. Like, it's never your fault. It has to be my fault.
Gary, and if you're new to the show and we say Gary, we're talking about Gary Keller, together with Jay Papasan and Dave Jenks, may he rest in peace. They wrote the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, which of course is the namesake for our show. And Gary says that lots of leaders wake up and think that culture shows up because of just natural ability. But the reality is, he says culture by default is usually dysfunctional. And you have to be very purposeful about getting the culture you want.
I think it's easier to get it. I think it's harder to keep it. I think you could create your culture easier, but I think maintaining that is a very difficult thing that only leaders could do, because you're going to have to make some tough decisions with some people and some things that aren't 100% going to jive with everybody. But if you want to maintain that culture, like, those decisions have to be made.
He said this the other day, and I thought it was so good, Michael, that we actually wrote it down, and it's part of a course that he's going to be teaching. And it says, in the absence of culture, an organization doesn't become neutral. It becomes chaotic, untrustworthy, and ineffective. Culture will form by design or default, and default culture is usually dysfunctional. Listen to this, is so good. Confusion replaces clarity. What's right becomes what can I get away with. Politics and ego fill the void. Culture is replaced by internal competition and self-preservation. Morale and belonging collapse, performance becomes transactional, relationships and brands suffer, turnover rises, results decline, and the company and its brand are at risk. He said, he goes, the truth is, success in any business rises or falls at the hands of a leader based upon whether they get culture or don't understand the positive of a culture created, lived, and protected.
Mm, that's so good.
That's so good, right?
Where can I find that?
You can't. He just wrote it, and I'm lucky.
And you have it written down?
I'm lucky enough. I sit next to him writing down everything he says all day.
That's phenomenal.
That's so good. Or come into a theater near you. So, okay, now hit me with E. What's E?
Execute and expand, right? One of the biggest things, if people said if you had a superpower or what helped you to the success level you have, it's mainly my execution. Like I execute. If I go to family reunion or
make a camp or you sure?
Any of the conferences, like I will come back with 5 or 6 things, but I will execute the hell out of 1 or 2 of them and then eventually get to the 3rd, 4th, or 5th one. So execution's important. I mean, you have to execute on being seen. You have to execute on communicating. You have to execute on adding people to your database. You got to execute on simplifying things and getting in leverage and being a leader. So execution is good. You got to set clear priorities. I like to say work in sprints. I don't think anything for me is an endurance. It's a sprint with all firing bullets before cannonballs. I like to make decisions fast. I think in terms of executing well with the team and measure, right? I think you can't manage anything that's not measured. So if you want to execute, it's really those things of priorities, sprints, measurement, and being able to adjust.
And then expand.
Expand. That's using the 4 quadrants of urgent and important, not urgent, not important. And if you want to expand, you have to stay in that not urgent, but important box. And that's working on your business and not just in it, and getting to that whiteboard and redoing scale all the time. Are we executing it? Where are we missing it? What are we doing? Are we doing S well and L well and E well, but not the C and A? All right, well, what can we do?
You're like a warrior real estate agent philosopher. Because I'm listening to you, man, and you have absolute clarity, it sounds like, about what matters to get your business going and then to grow it once it's going.
I've had good people around me. Like I said, I was a gym teacher, so I wasn't an expert real estate guy before this, but I think surrounding myself with the right people, you mentioned Brian, being around him for years now, has completely amplified what I knew.
At the end of the day, Brian's a coach. And so it doesn't surprise me that someone who succeeded and competed at the athletic levels that you did understood the value of coaching. Why is being coached so important? Because I got people out there that are listening that don't have a coach. I think that's insanity.
For me, I can't always speak for everybody, but for me, the coaching was more of, there were a lot of things that I was doing right that I wasn't even aware of. And obviously making mistakes, right? But for me, the biggest coaching thing is what I'm doing making sense? And it's like, I'm not seeing the results, but do I keep going? Because you've done it before. Like, so is it okay to or do I can this? So it was, again, making those decisions fast. It was either make the decision of, all right, it doesn't matter. Like, you got to do this for another 30 days or 60 days or 9 months. Or now, this, you need to just discard it. And having a coach just help me with that, somebody that I trusted, was just important. Again, being able to execute. That was a huge thing, is how do I execute? And a coach told me, based on who he was or who she is, that they've been there before. Right. And they've run these plays and they saw what worked and didn't work. And we're going down that same path. And I just think it's foolish not to listen to somebody that, again, is where you want to be or has done what you're trying to do. So I just think it's a total cheat code.
Dude, spot on. All right, I want to take a step sideways. I want to go back to ancient Athens, my friend. There's a guy named Epicurus. He buys this incredible villa, and he becomes a philosopher who invites people over to his garden. They sit, they drink wine, they eat olives. You'll love it. We'd like you to join us in our garden. Will you join us?
Absolutely.
Okay. First of all, for the audience, because you all don't know, the marketplace, we told you at the beginning of the episode, is right on the Hudson River. They call it the Gold Coast, even though I'll debate that in Jersey all day long. And he's on the New Jersey side, so it's the Jersey waterfront. But you lived there, but that's kind of not where you spend all your time. You now kind of live on a farm an hour away. What? How do you go from city guy to farm guy, and what peace have you found?
Yeah, it was definitely a peace journey. Being a high performer like most of us are, right? And what we try to create in our lives, it's a lot. And I never really had the ability to just step away. Like I said, I'm living in these condo buildings. So every day you're walking in, you're seeing somebody. You're walking out, you're seeing somebody. You're walking a dog, you're seeing somebody. You're going to eat, you're seeing somebody. And when you're that seen, people will come talk to you and ask you how's the market or this. It was great. It was phenomenal. But there just came a part in my life where then I had a kid, I was married, things of that nature. I don't want the business to suffer whatsoever, right? So I still need to make sure that I'm still being seen and communicating well and add to the database. But I just needed a separation piece. And that was where the farm was. It was an hour away from my main market center. It's where I grew up. I went to high school and so forth. And yeah, we have some nice acreage out here. We run some cattle, and I think it's a great place for my son to grow up. And I go into the city at least 4 times a week.
But it's 2 hours a day in the car when you go in. What do you do? What, you got a big pickup truck, or you got a Porsche 911?
When have you had some of your best thoughts?
In the shower.
In the shower, driving, like that thinking time. And I'm sure you coach on this and have coached other people and learned this. Like that thinking time is so damn important. And that's like forced thinking time for me now. And not only just thinking time, it's podcast time, it's coaching time or a call time to my top people. Like those 2 hours are really useful because I'm not just going to sit in the car and do nothing. Like I just can't do that. I just feel that I've been forced to do some of the things that I don't want to do here. Sit at a desk and call somebody and like really care for a 20-minute call. Like it's tough sometimes, but in a car, it's very different. I get to listen to some of the podcasts that I just don't get to do here with the kids and things like that, or at work. So that 2 hours, I think, has actually helped me more than it's caused any stress or time loss away from the business. I think it's helped me drastically.
All right. So the audience doesn't know, but to get you on this podcast today, I had to do smoke signals and send a raven because you're in your 12th day of being off grid. You got picked up off grid and brought to the house to do this, and now you're being couriered back off grid. First of all, off grid, what is off grid? What does that mean to you?
I'm not having my phone. I've been camping in the woods since Monday. I was about 8-hour walk from my farm in the big wilderness. But I told my wife today I had the podcast. I was like, you got to pick me up Saturday at like 11. I got to go home. I got to take a shower.
What are you doing after an 8-hour march? What are you doing, dude?
It was more clarity. One of the things when I told people about this, they were like, aren't you going to get lonely? And I said, there's a big difference between solitude and loneliness. There's a big difference between those two. And solitude is like finding joy in being alone, right? Writing some of the things down in my journal that I never had time to do or reflect on. Looking at the business differently. Do some of the things really matter to me that I think matter? Do they, right? And just a reset, a digital detox. Like for the first 2 days, really the first 3 days, it was pretty stressful not having my phone. From prior to that, checking the market every time, like I care, because I'm a long-term investor anyway, so I don't care if it goes up, down, but I'm checking it 4, 5, 6 times a day, looking at it, like buying 10,000 here, like just stupid. Looking at emails that don't matter, there was just a lot of distraction in my world, and I just needed to get centered, mainly, and clarity around it.
What's been the aha? You're going to go back out and finish this experience. So far, what's the aha?
So far, the biggest aha for me was I have a lot of things in my life that are more of distractions than productive, right? From even some little things on the farm, right? Like evaluating, what does that time take away from my business? Or what time does that some of these things that I do with my business in the mastermind doesn't make as much sense? Should I really be doing that? Is that maybe it doesn't make as much financial sense, but then maybe you should do that with your business or with your family. Just really seeing all the pieces. And I'm noticing that there's a lot of pieces up there. And right now I'm just kind of letting them all fall down and just see which ones that I got to bring back up. But I want to come back into this, not with an arm full of all these things. Like I want to be able to hold what I have. And like right now I can't do that.
That's such a great analogy. Talk to me about the cell phone. It took you 2 or 3 days to not miss it.
I mean, it was tough, man. Like just the anxiety of not knowing what's going on with, a deal or an active listing, which again is silly considering that, I have a business partner who's been with me for 13 years. My sister works for me. She would never let anything happen, There's nothing that they can't solve without me. But it's tough not knowing what's going on in the world. I mean, even most of my social media, when I scroll, it's all productive stuff, from Ed Millett or Tony Robb, it's like all good stuff. But like that addiction of always needing to pick it up and scroll, it was addicted. I didn't realize how addicted to the phone I really am. And it's just scary.
Have you slept better since you got rid of it? Or is it hard to tell because you're sleeping on a pine cone?
Yeah, I was going to say, sleeping hasn't been phenomenal. It's getting better every day.
What's the worst meal you've had since you've been in the wilderness?
just the bars. I really haven't had much to eat. I've been eating a lot of bars. I brought some hamburgers in the beginning, but then I was like, I'm scared of bears. I don't know if I want to keep cooking around here.
Well, dude.
I was by myself, so.
Man, all right, last question for me. Literally, you're out there in the middle of nowhere thinking about life, real estate, family, kids, the journey of it all. Do you think you'll make that a regular endeavor to unplug for a couple of weeks a year, or is this a one-off?
No, I think based on the trajectory this is going, this will be forever. This will be a forever thing. I'd like to maybe encompass my son with me at one point, or my wife with me at one point, just to maybe even connect with her more, or my son more in different ways. Just like I'm using this trip to connect more with myself and gain that inner peace and clarity. And, I think I could use this with other people. But, I would beg some of you listeners, I think if I would have looked at my calendar this week, MREA podcast Saturday, I had a Mother Mastermind happy hour Wednesday, I had a coaching call on no week did this ever make sense to do this. And that's why I've never did it. And on Monday, I was just like, you know what? It's got to get done. There's never going to be a week. So I beg you, number one, don't find excuses not to do it. Two, if you don't do it, why? Why are you not doing anything to unplug? Right? There's a saying that when you unplug something, when you plug it back in, it still works. And that's same goes for you. If you unplug yourself for a little while, you still work when you plug back in. So I beg you, if you haven't done it, do it. If you haven't done it, why? What's getting in the way? And, find a way to unplug and recharge.
Dude, you inspire me. I love the way you're looking at the world.
Thanks.
Make me your first call, or at least third, on your way to work after you come back from the next phase in the wilderness. So we're going to let you go. We know you're being choppered back out 8 miles away. I want to hear all about it, all right?
I appreciate you, Jason. I'll let you know.
Michael, you're a hero to the industry, man. I love what you're doing. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you.
Oh, I meant it. This guy is a warrior, philosopher, real estate agent, athlete. I mean, I could just keep listing it, but I listened to him and the journey that he's on. Do you know why you love this show? Do you know why? The same reason that I love making it for you. Because you're a journeyer. You're listening to try to improve something about your life or your business, and you can't help it. You're on this drive. You don't even know why it's so powerful in your life, but it is. I'm the same way. This guy is really that way. I mean, he wakes up as a bartender after not getting the gym teacher job, and then realizes real estate's where it's at, and understands the simplicity of this idea. Seen, communicate, add to the database, leave a lasting impression, and then live in education. It's maybe the simplest playbook you could have to go run a business that does an infinite number of dollars in sales. The truth of the matter is he stumbled on something that I find wildly attractive. What are the 5 things that I need to wake up every day thinking about in order to get where I want to go in real estate sales? And he nailed it. And the fact that he then took it another step and said, okay, once you get those things, now here's how you improve on it. I think that's the story of who Michael Hern is. I don't think there's a part of his life that he's not trying to improve. And right now he's sitting out in the wilderness, completely unplugged with no phone, thinking about his life. That's what I want to focus on. Friends, when was the last time that you scheduled time in your life to think about it? You see, life happens to us in a whirlwind, and if you're not careful, you wake up and say, oh my gosh, I'm 45. Where did it go? Many of us will have calendars that are back to back. What happens if you schedule in an hour of thinking time next week? What if you're like Michael and you schedule in 2 weeks of thinking time? When you don't make time to think, the world happens to you. When you do make time to think, you end up with a life by design. That's what I think Michael Hern just taught us. Go forth and do likewise. There it is. That wraps another episode. Friends, I don't know what you're taking out of this. I really don't. I'll tell you what I want you to be taking out of it, which is these are the people that are having tremendously big lives. And the reason it's happening is because they're setting up the models and systems to do just that. Gary Keller told me that leadership is teaching people how to think so that they do the things they need to do when they need to do them, so that ultimately they get the things they want when they want to have them. And that's what I want for you. You're all leaders, but it begins with leading ourselves. If you're enjoying this podcast, I want you to click the subscribe button anywhere that you get your podcasts. We want to be the voice in your head every single week, and every week we're dropping new content. We also send out a newsletter at the conclusion of every show to make sure that you get the highest points in the models and systems that were discussed. So if you want to sign up, I need your name and your email address. Head over to the millionaireagentpodcast.com. millionaireagentpodcast.com. Enter your name and your email address, and every week that newsletter will be in your box. Friends, you just went on a journey. I hope that what happens between now and the next time we meet is absolutely wonderful for you. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week.
This podcast is for general informational purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions of the guest represent those of the guest and not Keller Williams Realty LLC and its affiliates, and should not be construed as financial, economic, legal, tax, or other advice. This podcast is provided without any warranty or guarantee of its accuracy, completeness, timeliness, or results from using the information. Warning: you must comply with the TCPA and any other federal, state, or local laws, including for B2B calls and texts. Never call or text a number on any do not call list, and do not use an auto dialer or artificial voice or pre-recorded messages without proper consent. Contact your attorney to ensure your compliance.